Welcome back, everybody. Hope everyone is doing well. My name is Jason. I'll be your host on this CFL talk show, Hussey's Huddle. In this video, we're going to talk about Cody Fajardo, and is he the future of the Saskatchewan Roughriders at quarterback long-term beyond 2022? Going to discuss all about that coming right up. But really quickly, before we get started, if you want to support the channel, the best way to do it is by hitting the like button and subscribing to Hussey's Huddle for more CFL content just like this. I greatly appreciate it. And with that said, let's talk about Cody Fajardo. So first, some introductory stuff for people that are not completely aware and just about Cody Fajardo's history in the CFL. He came into the CFL in 2016. I believe he was cut by the Oakland Raiders. That was the NFL team he got signed as an undrafted free agent. And then played 3 years as a backup with the Toronto Argonauts and the BC Lions. 3 full seasons as a backup. Never really saw any really extended playing time in those 3 years. And then he signs with Saskatchewan for 2019, expecting to be the backup behind Zach Collaros. But the first game of 2019, Zach Collaros gets out with a long-term concussion, and Fajardo takes hold. He actually didn't even get the first crack at it. Isaac Harker did in that game against Hamilton week 1 of 2019. But then Fajardo comes in the next game and ultimately takes hold of that job, has a great season in 2019, leads them to a 13-5 record and all the way to the West Finals, and where they narrowly lost to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, were the eventual Grey Cup champions. And he was also nominated for the Most Outstanding Player Award from the West Division, ultimately lost it to Brandon Banks, but still an outstanding first season as a CFL starter for Fajardo. But then in 2021, a lot of high expectations coming into the year. I mean, after how 2019 ended with, obviously a great season, but then losing to Winnipeg in the West Final. But, obviously I think he just didn't meet expectations this year. They did go 9-4. He did go 9-4 as a starter. Saskatchewan ends up going 9-5 overall, getting back to that West Final game where they again lose to Winnipeg. So after these 2 years, Saskatchewan Roughriders and CFL fans are just debating about Cody Fajardo's validity as a CFL starter, and I think he's just one of the most highly debated players in the entire league today. So I just want to take a look at him today, and we're first going to look at his statistics from the last 2 seasons. So we're here on CFL.ca here, just going to compare his 2019 to his 2021 stats. So obviously here you got the basic stuff from his statistics for this year. He's only 29 years old. You see the physical profile, just prototypical CFL quarterback size. But now you scroll down to here and you see the first 3 seasons of his career. Obviously, like I was talking about, 3 years as a full-time backup before he finally gets his crack in 2019 here with Saskatchewan. Really impressive season, obviously. 9.1 yards per attempt per pass. That is pretty darn impressive, honestly. I think that's right around where Zach Collaros, the league MOP, finished in 2021 here. He actually starts 16 games in 2019, but in 2021 he starts 13 with the shortened season, right? But the touchdowns really aren't that far apart, honestly. If he had started 3 more games, he probably would have thrown around 4 touchdown passes. That's really not a concern when you look at that, the touchdown pass production right there, right? But you see the yardage. I think the yards per attempt is way down, 7.4 yards. And that's a stat I really like to look at. I'm not a big yardage guy, but I like looking at yards per attempt because a lot of the time, the best quarterbacks, they don't lead the league in passing yards because, their team is running it when they have the lead late in the game. And yards per attempt is just a better metric to evaluate a quarterback, in my opinion. But you just see that it just really went down this year in terms of the efficiency in the passing game. But I also wanted to look at his rushing numbers because it's very relevant in terms of his value that he adds to this offense. And you see it this year, he actually was more efficient as a ball carrier, 6.0 yards per attempt versus 5.7 in 2019. Obviously, the big touchdown edge in 2019, that's usually due to situational things, but it does show you that they're getting the ball into scoring position more often. But, I think that's one thing that Cody Fajardo really needs to lean into more. We'll talk about that more in a second, but you just see it. That is just a valuable thing, and a lot of these quarterbacks in the league right now aren't adding too much value with their legs aside from, say, Vernon Adams in Montreal. So that's one strength that Cody Fajardo absolutely does have. And, you see that still showing up as a strength in 2021 when you look back at his 2019 stats. So now I want to talk about Cody Fajardo's strengths and weaknesses that I've just seen and just what I take away from watching him play. So I will start with strengths first, and I'm just going to identify two for each category here. And one, I think, and the most important thing, and I was alluding to it in just a minute ago, and that's his scrambling and rushing ability. I think that is such a valuable tool to have in the CFL today, because this league is just primed for having a successful rushing quarterbacks. You just see guys throughout the years, the Damon Allens of the world. I mean, Damon Allen was something else. But you see rushing quarterbacks succeed in this league, the scrambling type quarterbacks. It's almost becoming a necessity to have that play extending ability at quarterback, because offensive line play is just getting significantly worse over the years in football, just because of a multitude of factors, probably a lot due to the fact that there's not a lot of contact practices. But that's another issue. But that's just one thing I've seen from Cody Fajardo and watching him play, because he makes some plays that not all of these other CFL quarterbacks can make. There were a couple plays against Calgary in the playoff game. He played awful in the first half, especially the first quarter. But then in the second half, he really made a lot of plays with his legs and was the reason why they were able to come back. So I think that is the biggest strength for Cody Fajardo in his game. He really needs to lean into that more a lot. And I think the Riders need to do that more with their play calling, getting him on the move, doing a lot of play action type stuff. And then another strength I think he has is his short to intermediate accuracy. I think he's very good in terms of the 10 to 15 yards of the field, down the field. I'm really good at hitting those in-rhythm throws. When you scheme something up for Cody Fajardo, he is going to likely hit it. He's very efficient in terms of running an offense, in terms of the short to intermediate passing game. And that's what he really exceeded at in 2019 under the previous offensive coordinator. But when they brought in Jason Moss this year, Jason Moss likes to attack the defense down the field, and Fajardo, and that leads me to the weaknesses that I have for him. The deep ball accuracy just isn't there some days, and it's not there a lot of the time. And I don't think it's necessarily arm strength issue, because I think he's overthrown his fair share of these deep balls. It's just, it's a problem that really showed up at the end of the 2019 season. Missed Shaq Evans for some big plays at the end of the 2019 season, if I recall correctly. And then this year, just not unable to make those big plays down the field, and really kept this offense from really reaching its full potential this year under Jason Moss. So the deep ball accuracy is definitely something that Cody Fajardo needs to improve if he wants to be a full-time CFL starting quarterback for the long time into the future. And another thing I think he struggles with that kind of goes along with this sometimes is the deep ball accuracy. Sometimes when he makes a great play, scrambles around, buys himself a bunch of time, the reads just don't go through his head right. I don't think he processes the defense at a super efficient rate. I just think it's an experience thing. He's getting a little bit better at it. But often the time, when you take away that first read for Cody Fajardo, I feel like he stares down his receivers a lot of the time, and then just doesn't move on to number two quick enough. And, sometimes when he holds the ball too often, and, he makes a great play to avoid the rush, he just makes a terrible decision, and, he just doesn't see a defender, coming late across the middle, or he makes those fair share of mistakes. So I think Fajardo, honestly, he has some strengths to his game, but also some really obvious weaknesses, and teams are starting to really exploit that, and they really did in 2021. Now, don't get me wrong, almost all the CFL quarterbacks, save for Zach Collaros, had a down season in 2021. I'm just really interested to see who does bounce back, who does have a good statistical season in 2022, and I think Cody Fajardo really is one of the guys that is going to be expected to make a big bounce back this year, even though, there's certain metrics, as I was saying at the beginning of this video, that aren't really completely down. The touchdown passes are around the same pace, but you just want to see more, especially, again, that deep passing game really needs to be more efficient for the Roughriders to really get over this Grey Cup hump that they've been facing since 2013. So I'm really interested to see how Cody Fajardo goes into the future. And I just want to finish off with some things that I think the Roughriders can do going forward to help him succeed in 2022. One thing I think they can improve really is the play calling. I think they really need to get this running game going, really making that more of a focus of this offense. I think the running game really suffered this season. The yards per carry way down. William Powell kind of had a down year by his standards, even though he's still one of the better backs in the league. But I think, I think leaning into the running game and having more success in the ground game is more crucial. Running a lot more play action passes, Fajardo really exceeds on those. And, getting those, little RPO run pass options that really get him in rhythm and, comfortable early in games. And I think that's really one thing that can be adjusted. Jason Moss, like I said, he's really in favor of the deep ball passing. Really not Cody Fajardo's game, like I said. But ultimately, I think Moss does have the capability to adjust his scheme to this. And like I said, I think if he can lean more into those things that Fajardo does well, maybe you do improve some of these things that he doesn't do so well. Get him some easy looks down the field. And then related to number one, they really need to improve this offensive line this offseason. It really kind of held its way together for the most part early on this season, but I think, the talent differential, just really the injuries started to catch up to them, and the retirement of Brandon Labatt really caught up to them on the offensive line. A lot of departures from that 2019 unit that was so strong. Dan Clark, again, had a pretty good season right at the center position. But other than that, they really struggled. Evan Johnson, I think, had his fair share of struggles this year, coming in as a big free agent addition from Ottawa. But I think it's going to be really crucial for Fajardo to, they can't really have a clear evaluation of him going forward if they don't give him adequate pass protection, because Fajardo's just about, other than Vernon Adams, the most, athletic quarterback in the league probably. And, he just was under pressure and just running for his life. Basically the whole second half of the season this year. Saw it a lot in the playoff game and a lot of the matchups with Calgary down the stretch. So I think that's one thing they really do need to improve going into 2022. And, with all these free agents this offseason, there's no excuse why they can't do it. And then finally, I think they really need to rekindle that chemistry between Shaq Evans and Cody Fajardo. Shaq Evans had just a nightmare season this year, got injured fairly early in the season, and then when he got back, he was really out of rhythm with the offense. They did give him a good amount of targets, but he really just wasn't producing and just, really slow coming off that injury. But I really think they do need to bring him back this offseason. I believe he's a free agent. I basically just assume everybody's a free agent because there's just so many of them this offseason. But Evans, I think they should bring him back because Fajardo had a great season looking his way in 2019. And if you can get some of that back, maybe not have that career year that he had in 2019, but if you get, 85% of that player back and you add that to Duke Williams going into next year and Duke Williams re-signs with them, I think that could be a huge boost to Cody Fajardo and helping him get his consistency back that we saw in 2019. But those are just my thoughts on Cody Fajardo as the Saskatchewan Roughriders future at quarterback. I think 2022 is going to tell us a whole ton about Cody Fajardo going forward, obviously, but I think he can still do it. I think there's enough good there, and I think, in terms of potential around the league, I think it's really hard to find a guy that has a higher potential. I just think if you could fix that deep ball accuracy, and I know accuracy is just a hard thing to really improve, but like I said, if you can lean more into what Cody Fajardo does well, I think you can mitigate some of those, problem areas for him and turn him into a pretty good franchise CFL quarterback. But only time will tell. You'll have to let me know what you guys think in the comments section. And with that said, that is going to be the end of today's video, ladies and gentlemen. And I want to thank each and every one of you for watching. Once again, my name is Jason. If you want to support the channel, the best way to do it is by hitting the like button and subscribing to Aussie's Huddle for more CFL content just like this. I greatly appreciate it. And that's my email going off if you heard the noise, guys. Sorry about that. And with that said, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.